Surtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. The wait is over.
Let's get this thing started.
Go!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best of episodes 11 through 20 of the In or Out Sports Debate. We are live. I am Drew Willingham, the host of the show, the creator of the show, and bringing you back down towards a trip through memory lane to go through episodes 11 through 20 tonight. I am live with you, as we'll be able to do a live reaction. If you want to comment and take part of it as well, we will be here. I will be live. We are doing the best of episodes 11 through 20. We are on the air. And, you know, we are celebrating 100 Mother, Father, and episodes of this show. As last week, Kyle Nash was here to celebrate episode 100 with me. And since we hit that milestone, I decided that I should kind of go back and see where it all began. And earlier this evening, we went through episodes 1 through 10 and saw where it all started. And now we're going to go ahead and go through episodes 11 through 20 and keep this journey going. Let's go ahead and take a look at that first one of this series that we have for 11 through 20 and pull that one up. And for that episode, we'll be talking about NBA. And Rob and I will be together on this episode as we bring you episode 11. And when we talk about the big man, it's definitely going to be key in this conversation, at least, of what we talk about when it comes to this episode 11. Enjoy.
Final round.
Having a star big man is key to winning championships in today's NBA. Rob, what do you feel about this one?
I'm out.
Rob is out.
Get the f*** out of here!
And Drew, honestly, to be serious on this one, you know, there's not really much to expound on. All you need to know is that the last true big man to really win was Tim Duncan 04-05 and Shaq back in the three-peat days. So basically, what it is that we have a situation right now where you have big guys like Kevin Durant. He's not a big guy, but you have more of hybrid big men. So if you have a hybrid big man that can do a lot of things, yes, you can win a championship with him, but not a true big man. Hybrid big men, yes.
You know, with this topic, Rob, having a star big man is key to winning championships. I will have to agree with you. I'm out of here.
Get the f*** out of here!
in all seriousness, like Rob said, the game has changed so much. You've got guys playing several different positions. It really started back in 1979 when Magic Johnson came to the NBA, and he was a point guard, but he could play in multiple different positions. Was able to play center in that first championship when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got hurt and went down with that broken ankle in that first championship. He was able to move to center in the last game and win that last game to win the championship for them. That's that wasn't the first time I'm sure it was ever done, but that's the first real notable time that it was done with a big game on the line. And as time has evolved over the past 40 plus years since then, we've seen a lot more of that. LeBron James has played different positions. You've got several different guys like Shaq and Yao Ming and the guys like the special 7-foot freaks that are out there playing center. They're not as well known nowadays besides Joel Embiid and stuff like that. But nowadays, even he can play the power forward and stuff like that. He could be more versatile there too. So I'm not with the whole having a big guy is key to winning championships with all that said.
Yeah, look at how the hair was slicked back on that. The hair was slicked back pretty good on that episode 11. And that was the final episode that Rob and I did in the streak of what we started the original show as. We had some differences in creative, and we still worked together in the Legacy Maker Sports Network for quite some time. But at that moment, it was time to move on and start something anew. And with that starting, we have some comments. It looks like we got Melvin Turismo in the house. Says, "I'm here, fellas. This should be epic." Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, Melvin. I definitely appreciate you.
Yeah.
So keep the comments coming. I definitely appreciate it. Listen, we got Ike doesn't give a fuck. It's back in the house. Says another one. Let's go. Absolutely. We are ready to rock and roll.
Acknowledge me.
Absolutely. Acknowledge Ike for being here in the house with the comments as he comes back with the fire, as well as Rob looks disinterested. In that topic, maybe more so, but like I said, after episode 11, it was time for us to make some decisions, and I wanted to keep the show going. And episode 12, as we're about to get to here in a second, marks where that change began. And with that change, we had Tyrone Montgomery Jr., the Legacy Maker Sports Network, come in as we talked a little bit of NBA action. Let's go ahead and take it into that part of this show where we go into episode 12, and we discuss, in this one, we talk a little bit of Golden State Warriors action. And with that, we're going to take this into that episode in episode 12 with Tyrone Montgomery Jr.
Round 3.
This one's a very interesting one, Ty, because when you really look back on it and you really think about it, this one does kind of make sense. The Golden State Warriors are poised to win it all this year, despite the decline in Steph Curry's production this postseason. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, Drew, that's a loaded question. That's that's the works right there. Yeah, I have to say I'm in. I look at this Warriors team. They've been through a lot. Klay Thompson was hurt, missed a lot of the season. Draymond Green, he missed a lot of games towards the end of the season as well. James Wiseman, a first-round draft pick. We still don't know who he is and what he can possibly do to help this team. Steph Curry, he missed the end of the season as well, and it was doubt that he would even play in the first round, but they brought him off the bench. He came back just in time, and the Warriors look like the Warriors again. But even better, it looks like this window was about to close, but it may have expanded, just opened up just a little bit longer, and I think they're poised to win it all this year. They're up 3-0 against the Dallas Mavericks. Nobody wants to play Luka, but they ran into Luka, and they haven't been able to contain Luka, but they've been able to contain the Mavericks, and that's been helping them to succeed. And they're 1 win away from the finals, and I think that will happen tonight in Dallas. But I look at this Warriors team, Andrew Wiggins, an all-star starter. He's been huge for them. A lot of the time he's guarding the best player on the other team, but he's still giving them 20 points on a nightly basis. Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is going to get paid in full this summer.
Yes.
He is gonna get the bag, Drew. So I mean, this Warriors team, they're deep. Despite the injuries that they've had, despite the issues, I was a little concerned about them when they were playing against the Grizzlies, but they've made it out alive. They made it to the next round, and now they're 1 win away from the finals. So I like their chances to win it all. And I look at this Eastern Conference. Miami's banged up, Boston's banged up, and they're both two inconsistent teams. And I think the Warriors will just take advantage of that, and I think they'll be champions this year.
You bring up some really good points, and I do agree with this. I'm in on this. The biggest reason that's the biggest stat that really affects Curry this year in this postseason is he's below 82% in free throw percentage. He's usually a pretty good free throw shooter. And this season, if you look back on it 3 months ago, like even up to 3 months ago, Curry was in a funk up until that point. He really turned it on during that point and got to where he is now, to where he's productive. But even throughout the playoffs, that free throw percentage is just atrocious when you look back on his career. The resurgence of Klay Thompson, even though he had the injury bug, like you said, the resurgence of him, he has stepped it up in this playoffs, which has really helped with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. If it wasn't for them, it's their play that has really propelled this team to be 3-0 against the Mavericks at this point. And the Mavericks were laying it on thick against Suns last round. That 40-point loss. Yeah, that 40-point win. Oh my God. That's got to be the one. I know you saw that video that I put in the chat with CP3. Yeah. That one was I died laughing. I watched that at least 6 or 7 times in a row. A little 2-minute clip. That thing was great. I love that little short on there. But like you said, the arrival of Jordan Poole, he is going to get paid. Like you said, this is the arrival of him, and he's setting the tone for this Warriors team for years to come, because in a league where everybody's getting paid, where we're just talking about Westbrook with the $47 million contract, and LeBron with 44, and AD goes up to 43 by the third year that's going to be ending here in a few years. All of these guys are going to be getting paid. So especially Curry, do you pay him a lot of money here when his contract goes out down the line, and if for somebody whose numbers are going to be possibly on the decline?
Steph
or
Curry?
Do you keep him around for the leadership?
Well, go ahead.
I think you keep him around for the leadership, just because this team wouldn't be where it's at. Because when you look back on when Steph Curry came into the league, the Warriors were at the bottom of the food chain, okay? And with him and Klay Thompson and the building of this team with the big three, with Draymond Green and now with the other pieces they got, I feel like it's him that sets that chemistry within the team. You can't let Steph go. I'd pay him $50 million around stick around for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and the thing is, Drew, I don't think Steph Curry is even going to demand that kind of money. I think he sees the big picture, and I think he's looking at the same thing we're looking at. He's only getting older, and this team needs him. Rather he's productive on the court, he's still going to be a productive player off the court, in the locker room, on that bench. And I look at this team like this. This is a family. This is a brotherhood. This is what every NBA team wants, a good culture. And Draymond Green, he's kind of been declining a little bit, injuries and stuff like that. His shooting has been off, but he's still around. And Klay Thompson has been hit with the injury bug. He's still around. And I can see this team with their core, their big three, and Klay, Steph, and Curry, Steph Curry and Draymond, rather. I can see all of them joining this coaching staff. So, yeah, I don't think they're letting Steph Curry walk.
And Steve Kerr's been a big part of that too, bringing the leadership that he had, with those championships that he won back in the day too, is he learned a lot with leadership. He had the best coaching around him for those championships too. There's no reason why he shouldn't have the rings that he has. Yeah. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, I think Ty's pick was spot on. I did okay with that one, but Ty's pick was spot on. And even we even have a take with that here in the comments. Ike says Ty was spot on with this take, and he definitely was. And thank you for the shout out to mine. Mine was a solid take, I guess. But we mutually agreed that with this take right here, that the Golden State Warriors were poised to win the championship that year, which was last year, and they did. They won it. So Good job to them for pulling it off. I guess good job to Ty on his spot on take, and I wasn't that far behind him. So kudos to us decently for that take right there. We've gone through the first two topics so far on this show, which episode 11 and now episode 12. So Tyrone Montgomery Jr. stepped in for episode 12 there. And for this one, Corey Mann comes in as we were talking about the land purchasing for the Washington Commanders. And is at that time, Dan Snyder was still the owner of that team. And so much has changed, and you will see that as these series of these best of episodes continue. But when it comes to this episode 13 and talking about the sale, as far as the purchasing sale of the property that they were planning to go to originally, there's still so much up in the air present day about that. But see what Corey Mann and I had to say about this on this date, May 30th, 2022, just a little over a year ago. Check this on out.
Round 3.
Purchasing land in Dumfries, Virginia was a great move to build a new stadium economically for the Washington Commanders. How do you feel about this, Corey? Are you in or out?
As much as I cannot stand the Commanders, I am in. I love the fact that they're going to get away from the nation's capital. Get away from it. Have your own domain. Have your own little small town. It costs more money for them to be in the District of Columbia too, that close to federal government and whatnot, and they have to follow all these federal guidelines, etc. It's a lot of steps for them to be where they are right now. So if they take their ball and move on down to Dumfries and go with the plan that is currently on the table, we're talking about generations of billions of dollars for the Washington Commanders. It is a fantastic move to me, and I think more teams should look at doing that when they are looking to build or renovate their spaces. Dude, get everything around me. Build me up economically. If it builds up economically, then it can only help whatever town, city, etc. that they go to. So I think it's a great move.
You're most certainly right, and I've got to say that I'm in on this too. Did you know that in Dumfries is the first major hotspot in Virginia for legalized gambling? This is a huge move for the Commanders because as the NFL and other sports are getting bigger with DraftKings and FanDuel and stuff like that, and how the sports gambling has become more popular over the past half decade as legalized gambling, I think this is a huge move for the Commanders. I am on the opposite side of Corey. I am a fan of the team. I will just go ahead and raise my hand now and say I'm guilty as charged. Look at the license plate of the Hulk Hogan license plate, Hulk Hogan, a lunchbox behind me that's covering the old mascot. So yes, that's my old license plate. I am grandfathered in, along with the half sleeve tattoo I have going down my left arm is dedicated to him as well. I am in there for life, baby. So yes, I'm a fan, but back on task. Purchasing land in Dumfries. Dumfries peaked. They peaked as far as size and importance back in 1763, Corey. In 1763 is a long time. So this move is going to help elevate this team economically. This is big for that town in Dumfries. It may take a few years for us to see a change within this, but I feel like this is a huge, huge move for not just this team, but for the NFL economically.
Exactly. And it's going to start setting a trend for other teams that may be looking to move the location of their, stadium, dome, etc., and do a similar plot if they carry it out successfully. And that's the big thing. Then it's going to force the NFL's hand a little bit here too. Like you were saying with the legalized gambling, I don't know why sports teams are starting to, continually pushing back on it. This is going to be the new era of life going forward. So how do you, as the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, MLB, etc., get involved with that so you can get your hand fully in that pot and get a percentage of that so you can allow gambling? Now, the people that's participating in it, no, you shouldn't gamble. Cool, I got that. But, everybody else, don't make it bad for everybody else, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? if Dan Snyder survives the debacle that he's been going through over the past couple of years with the stuff he's been going through and gets to see not only the evolution of the stadium built, his best buddy Jerry Jones over in Dallas, he needs to upstage him with this stadium and make it bigger and better than Jerry World. Small town of Dumfries, but best stadium in the United States. I'm ready for it. Fingers crossed, and I hope Legacy Maker's there on the first game of that season for that stadium.
That would be awesome.
That would definitely be awesome.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Well, guys, what do you think about that take from last year, May of 2022? That's what our take was when it came to the purchasing of that property in Dumfries, Virginia. What will the new owners do with it? Who knows? But we take this into episode 14, and I had professional wrestler Golden Boy Greg Anthony on for episode 14. So we were talking about MJF's persona and how the vulgarity affected the fans and children or whatnot and all that involved. Let's take a look here at episode 14 and see what Golden Boy Greg Anthony and myself had to say about MJF and his vulgarity. As a result of the most recent actions, MJF's persona is one of the best examples of an old school heel, but his vulgarity cripples his growth. Greg, how do you feel about that? Are you in or are you out?
I am absolutely in. People that know me best know that, this kind of stuff is what drives me crazy. We run a completely family-friendly show. No vulgarity, no cussing, no anything, no extreme violence. So absolutely, professional wrestling has always been about getting heat, but not getting heat that makes someone never want to buy a ticket again. It's really easy to get heat when you tell someone, hey, fat bitch, sit down. That's easy. They're going to cuss you when you do that, of course. But it's when you can just look at someone on the front row and get them that mad and get that reaction out of them. That's when you're a true heel. I've said it for a while now. I like 80% of what MJF does. And the 20% I don't like has to do with the vulgarity and the cussing and just the overall arc that he's followed.
I'm like the needle moves. The fan part of me says that I'm out. However, the professional journalistic part of me says that I'm in. Guys, let's get real here. Even though I got access to a clip of what wasn't edited, we didn't see all of that on live TV. So part of this is a work from AEW, and the fact that we hear all this news about there was a source that came out earlier today actually that said that there were top execs of TNT that were pushing for MJF to be removed from the AEW roster and from all vets and from all promotional parts of video and stuff like that for the actual show for Rampage and for Dynamite. Because of a result of that, I feel like this is all a work to get him bigger, because now you got CM Punk's injury, right? There's going to have to be a person that comes and fills that shoes. And I feel like that MJF is going to be the best person for that, because it's the summer of MJF now. We had the pipe bomb from Punk. We had the summer of Punk. Now we potentially have the summer of MJF. Even though I don't agree with how they started it off, okay, because they could have done it better. Like you said, your promotion does more of a family-friendly atmosphere, which I'm all for that, as I'm growing up and understanding that. 10 years ago, I would have told you something different. I would have been like, I'm all for what's going on with AEW. But this type of behavior is not for national television. This is not something that we need to influence the next generation with. We need to save this for something else, like the movies or Netflix or something that, you can selectively choose this type of behavior for, not for national television. It's big to get somebody over by being eccentric on national television, but you can do that by your tone of your voice and how you articulate your words. You don't have to cuss to get your point across.
No, and let me tell you a little, firsthand experience from this too. I started in April 2000. So, I mean, I was a teenager during the Attitude Era and all that kind of stuff. And I was a huge fan of ECW. I was a huge fan of the Attitude Era. And we know they pushed the envelope with similar stuff to this. And I did like it at the time. But once I got in professional wrestling, when I broke in, there was about 20, 30 of us between the ages of 14 and 20 that kind of all broke in together. And after so many years, a lot of those guys fell off and there was only a handful of us left. But about 6 or 7 years in, we looked around and we realized that there was no 18-year-old kids trying to get in wrestling anymore, or at least not to the same numbers that there were when we did it, right? And we couldn't put our finger on it. And one day it kind of dawned on me. When we were 18 and we were loving all this stuff, 6, 7 years, that's 11, 12 years old. And that's when parents started turning the dials off on professional wrestling because there was cussing, because there was drinking, because there was vulgarity, because there was nudity, all that kind of stuff. And we just didn't see the same level of wrestling fans come out. Every business is about creating a new fan. Most people do not wake up when they're 40 years old and go, hey, I'm going to be a wrestling fan today. You know what I mean? Unless they have kids that become wrestling fans. So that's why everything, in my opinion, needs to be geared mostly towards kids. I'm not going to say we have to do everything, Nickelodeon style. But what I'm saying is, it needs to be geared towards them, because I became a wrestling fan in the very beginning of my life, and here I am, 41 years old, I'm still a wrestling fan. If you create a wrestling fan when they're kids, more than likely you're going to create a wrestling fan for life.
You're absolutely right with that, and you bring up a great point that I want to say real quick. I wasn't a wrestling fan until I was a little bit older in life. I want to say I was 11, 12. And you know what? There's a movie that actually inspired me to become a wrestling fan. And you wouldn't even think of probably which one that I'm talking about, but it was actually a Jim Carrey movie. It was Man on the Moon, because I'm a big Jim Carrey fan from when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
He just always made me laugh in a world where there's so much negativity. I always was compelled towards funny movies, and Jim Carrey was a comedian. Now, this wasn't really more so a comedic film, but because I was a big fan of Jim Carrey, 11, 12 years old, going into teenage, preteen, I was into Jim Carrey movies. So I watched Man on the Moon, that movie, Jerry the King Lawler, that rivalry, seeing it all culminate, seeing them make Jerry Lawler look 20 years younger, it was pretty funny. And all of that, in the film, I started watching WWF behind the parental backs, because like you said, it was frowned upon. There was more nudity. It was an Attitude Era at that point. 1998, 1999. It was the beginning of the Attitude Era. Sable, all that stuff. All those things in TV they don't want you to see at 11, 12, preteen age. If you know what I'm saying, if you're picking up what I'm throwing out, if you're smelling what I'm cooking, that's what I'm talking about. But when it comes to that, that's basically the time frame that I got into. And if it wasn't for like your territorial roots in Tennessee and Jerry the King Lawler, and for what he did to professional wrestling, and for what he did, I may never have become a professional wrestling fan from being a Jim Carrey fan and seeing that movie.
And also, Jerry the King Lawler still wrestles, and he's well into his 70s, much like Ric Flair. I just tagged with Jerry Lawler back in September.
And I saw the strut too, by the way, not to cut you off, but I accidentally, I ran out of time. I meant to actually upload that and for us to talk about that at some point, but maybe at some point down the road. But yeah, that was really amazing for me to see that if he could pull it off, even though he hasn't been through as much as Ric Flair has done damage to his body with all the drinking, I have good hopes for Flair too, I guess.
Yeah, Lawler was never a drinker or a drug guy or anything like that. So I mean, he's another anomaly though. Like, he just started wearing knee pads
because of his age and needing the support.
Because of his age. Yeah. He did the fist drop off the second rope for years with no knee pads. I mean, that's crazy to all of us professional wrestlers. And here he is, he's wrestling in the 70s, and he just started having trouble enough with his knees to go, yeah, maybe I need to wear knee pads. You know, like, some of this stuff is just, it's stuff that you can't teach. It's stuff that you can't learn. It's something about that individual. Ric Flair's one of them, and Jerry Lawler's definitely one of them too.
Hey, before we take some comments from the fans, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Do you happen to have any of Jerry Lawler's artwork because of how famous of an artist he is? Do you happen to have any of that lying around behind you?
I do actually somewhere. I have a photo he did of me actually.
Really?
Yeah.
It's some point down the line. I mean, unless you got within arm's reach, but I mean that's really cool that Jerry Lawler did an actual drawing of you.
Yeah, I got it right here.
That's awesome. That man is so talented. From all the things I've seen online, guys, let me actually put. That's awesome, man. Like that's fantastic. And he autographed it and everything. Like the fact that you got to live out a dream as a fan, you got to do the strut with Jerry Lawler. You got some artwork of yourself drawn by a WWE Hall of Famer and Jerry Lawler. That's epic, man. You can't write that in history.
Well, I've got one actually even better than that. You know, you're talking about I did the Fargo strut with Jerry Lawler. I did the Fargo strut with Jackie Fargo. There's a video. You'd have to find it on my Facebook somewhere. But like, we did a show with Jackie Fargo back, you know, probably 9-10 years ago, and there's a video of me and Jackie Fargo doing the Fargo strut together. So the actual originator of the strut and me doing the strut. That's why I use the strut in my stuff, is because I'm the only one that's actually strutted with Fargo.
That's awesome. Like, I didn't know that before. Of all the research I did before we did this episode, I didn't come across this. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
So what do you guys think about that? We had professional wrestler Golden Boy Greg Anthony on here. We were talking about just basically the do's and don'ts when it comes to language, vulgarity, and stuff in professional wrestling. Let us know here in the comments how you feel about that clip. We're going to go ahead and move things into episode 15 as we are mother, father, and live here. So if you've got any comments, bring them on in and I'll acknowledge them here in the live feed. But right now we're going to go to episode 15. June 7th, 2022, and we talk about the NBA Finals in this, and Tyrone Montgomery Jr. is back, and he talks about the NBA Finals with me, and as I upload the clip here, Tyrone Montgomery Jr., two-time Vault of Fame inductee. I hope to get him back on here at some point down the line because we had a great episode here, and this was his finals prediction. This was my finals prediction there on June 7th, 2022. You know, with the final round tie, just talking about it, Game 2's outcome has set the tone for the NBA Finals. Warriors in 6. Are you in or are you out?
It looks like we already got our graphic already made when the Golden State Warriors win the championship. I'm in. That's right. There we go. There we have it. Yes, I believe the Warriors will win this series in 6 games. I said it before. I'm saying it again. I'm sticking to my chops here, Drew. I look at this Warriors team in Game 1, what they were able to do in that third quarter. They just pushed that lead out, and we all thought that they were going to win Game 1. Celtics had a historic comeback, and they won Game 1. That was one game, and the Game 2, the third quarter, it happened again. The Warriors were able to extend that lead and run away with it, but only in Game 2 they were able to close it. They were able to seal the deal, and I'm expecting them to continue on this path. And like I said earlier, it's not going to be easy because Boston's defense is #1 in the league for a reason. They have a lot of athleticism. They have a lot of young talent there. They have a lot of depth. They have good, strong defensive wings, Drew. So I look at this series and I still have to take the Warriors in 6. I think the Celtics will probably win at home in Boston in Game 3 tomorrow evening, but I think the Warriors will probably handle business, and I think they're going to win this series.
Just like I was saying previously, I have to stick with what I said before. I'm still with the Celtics. I'm out.
Denied.
Celtics, In 6, baby. I'll live by the sword. I die by the sword. I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with the Celtics. They got the size over the Warriors, even though the Warriors have championship experience. They're still missing KD. KD's missing them too, brother. So without the key cohesive unit, I don't think they're going to get done this year against this size. They're going to have to get some size during the offseason, a little bit more. Maybe if it's just depth that comes off the bench to where it just helps them out in certain spots, but they need a little bit more help. Okay, I'm going with the Celtics. Celtics in 6. We'll probably still eventually see a 7-game series because I don't think they're going to win it in 5. I don't think the Celtics are going to just only win game 1. It's going to be at least a 6-game series, but Celtics in 6. I was so wrong.
Let me throw this at you, Drew. Klay Thompson haven't quite looked like Klay Thompson that we all grew to love over the years in this series. It's only a matter of time. He's jacking up a lot of shots. Eventually, some of them will start to fall. It's only a matter of time before some of those shots start to fall and Klay gets his confidence back and Steph doesn't have to carry the team so much. Jordan Poole, he got off to a rocky start in game 1. He had a decent game in game 2. And Draymond Green, we see the energy that he brought in game 2. So Poole and Green, they may be back on track. Just wait till Klay Thompson gets going. You got something?
2 things. I got 2 things. Celtics only need to do 2 things, my man. They just need to limit the turnovers and they need to do better in the third quarter because they absolutely sucked in the third quarter in game 2. If they can do better in the third quarter and they can limit those turnovers to not have 18, they're going to win game 3. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree that will definitely help their chances. But at the same time, we saw what Horford did, we saw what Derek White did, and we saw what Marcus Smart, what they were able to do in game 1. They didn't quite do that in game 2. So if you're a Golden State, you can shut those guys down. Let Tatum beat you on his own. And Tatum is lethal. Like I said, he was able to beat you in 2 different ways in game 1 and game 2, even though the outcomes were different. But, Tatum can switch up his game, and Jaylen Brown's an athletic freak. He does his business on the defensive end, but he can get you buckets as well. He's so big and strong and tough, and, he's very versatile in his game. But I look at this matchup here. If the Warriors can just beat you in different ways, like I mentioned, if Klay gets going, just look out. I mean, Steph has been carrying the weight for them, and if Klay gets going, that's just going to change the whole dynamic of the series.
And it's polar opposites from what was going on at the beginning of this playoffs. It was actually Klay and the rest of this team, Jordan Poole and everybody else in this team that was carrying this team throughout the beginning part. And now it's funny how it's transitioned now to the ones that were struggling at the beginning of the playoffs are now what's carrying this team through the game 2 victory and potentially the momentum from that going forward, which we'll see. I just have a big, strong hope for the Celtics now, the way that they won that series against the Heat. I said it then, and I'm going to still stick with it, and I'm going to live by the sword and die by the sword on this. The beast is going to come from the East in 2022. That's what's going to happen. It was either going to be the Heat or the Celtics, baby, and that's what I'm sticking with.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Like I said, the Celtics, they're tough, man. They're here for a reason. But if they want to win this series, they got to get some contributions from your Marcus Smarts, your Al Horfords, your Derek Whites. Derek White, he's been solid throughout the entire postseason, honestly, but just going to get some. They're going to need some production from those guys. And a big thing here, Drew. I don't think we touched on this, but the health of Robert Williams. He recently had a knee procedure before the postseason started. They wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play. Now, fortunately, miraculously, he's been able to suit up and play and give them some big time minutes. But if he's not 100%, Kevon Looney, I almost pronounced his name wrong. Kevon Looney for the Warriors, he's been solid. He's been a very underrated player. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting going down the stretch.
It definitely will be. It's going to be a great game to watch tomorrow night. The cool thing about the finals is actually spread out a little bit. It keeps you the anticipation's there. It's a few days spread out. Gives them a good time to rest a little bit too. A little bit off subject for those of you who are wrestling fans. Not sure if you saw where Cody Rhodes had wrestled with that torn pec. There's been memes all over the place about it. Bruised up shoulder. You can't do that in basketball. You can't shoot You can't have a torn pec and shoot. So the good thing about that, they get the time in between each game to rest, but you can't rest off a torn pec in 72 hours, get ready for game 3. So we'll see how that rocks with some of these guys who are a little bit banged up.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
There you have it for episodes 15's highlight there with Tyrone Montgomery Jr. As that was the second time and currently the last time that he was here. And hopefully we can get him in here again at some point in the near future. Just have to cross paths and get the mutual time frames to be compatible to where we can make that happen. We've gone through now episode 15. Let's go ahead and shift things into episode 16. To the Snowman Brian Snow's first ever appearance here on the In or Out Sports Debate. And with Snowman's first ever episode, with this one, we definitely talked about something that he takes serious. That is his San Francisco 49ers, especially the time frame when Joe Montana and Roger Craig and Jerry Rice and others, Dwight Clark and other names, were on the team and led them to great heights. And speaking of which, with this topic right here, with this highlight, the Snowman and I talk about Roger Craig. Let's go ahead and see what we had in store for this one.
Final round.
And here with the final round, Snowman definitely feels passionate about this. If you watch any of the Snowman in the Mornings, you can definitely see and hear how he feels about this. This is a definite question that fans of Snowman should know. Go ahead and say it.
This should have been done. I said it in the promo. If you can celebrate Christian McCaffrey's 1,000 season, if you can celebrate Marshall Faulk's 1,000 season and elect him into the Hall of Fame, why can't you elect the person who originated the 1,000 season? And that's Roger Craig. He's the original jackknife running back. Look, I have much love for Walter Payton. I have much love for Barry Sanders. I have much love for John Riggins. Y'all know how I feel about the old school running backs. But if you want to talk about an old school jackknife running back, that was number 33. That was Roger Craig. Unfortunately, a fumble in the 1990 championship game is all they're going to look at instead of what he's done and what he did do over the course of his career. Roger Craig should have a gold jacket and a bust in the Hall of Fame right now. Period. All in.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I definitely agree. I'm in too. Roger Craig had 3 1,000-yard seasons. Unless they're trying to punish him for his last 3 years with the Raiders and with the Vikings, respectively, with the last 3, because he was at the tail end of his career, which they shouldn't, because like you said, Marshall Faulk got in and he had 1,000 season, and their numbers are pretty close when you compare the two of them. There's no reason why Roger Craig has gone 32 years. Well, no, it's been right at 30 years pretty much since he retired and has still not gotten in. So technically he's been eligible for a quarter century and has still not gotten in. That's ridiculous. I feel like he should be in. If it wasn't for him, there might be two
there
less
would never
49ers
be
these rings.
Exactly. Two. I mean,
I would say 2.
I would
give them 2.
Well, not many people know this. Roger Craig was the first player to score 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, 2 receiving, 1 rushing. And in Super Bowl 23, he caught 9 passes for 101 yards. He and Rice were the only 2 receivers with 100 yards receiving in the Super Bowl game. And while we're talking on the subject of 49ers who should be in the Hall of Fame, can we get an extra vote for John Taylor, please?
Yes. I there's no reason why these guys should not be in. There's so many names we can go through. If Eli Manning gets in before Roger Craig does, that's a huge slap in the face.
It's a big slap in the face, and I'm boycotting the Hall of Fame if Eli gets in before Roger Craig does. I mean, as I mentioned, can we get an extra vote for John Taylor? I mean, the only guy in Monday Night Football history with not one but two 90-yard touchdown passes in the same game. He caught, my numbers remember me correctly, he caught 10 for 286 against the Rams in a game where they trailed 27-10 and wound up winning 30-27 on the strength of a 20-point fourth quarter.
It's blasphemy. It's blasphemy.
It's
it must
pure
be politics.
It's pure unadulterated blasphemy against that 80s dynasty 49er team. As a matter of fact, let me throw this back a little further. If the Steeler fans can get behind John Stallworth and get John Stallworth into the Hall of Fame, who also wore number 82 and was terrific, why can't this number 82 get in the Hall of Fame? What's up with that? As my wife would say a lot.
Facts. There's no reason why they can't. They're being held back because of the Joe Montana aspect. Just like there's probably going to be players from the Patriots dynasty who feel the same type of shade when it's their turn to be acknowledged for the Hall of Fame.
Teddy Bruschi being one of them. All right, Julian Edelman being another. You could go down that laundry list of Patriots and say most of them won't make the Hall of Fame. And the first reason would be Tom Brady. Okay? So if the first reason is Tom Brady for the Patriots, you know the first reason is Joe Montana for the 49ers.
I agree with that. When you've got the top two quarterbacks in the echelon of the mountain, they're going to find some reason, even though Jerry Rice didn't get penalized, but Jerry Rice is in a whole nother category. He's like a
You know what? Jerry Rice is Jerry Rice. Okay? The 49ers moved up in the draft and surprised everybody by snatching Jerry Rice out of Mississippi Valley State. Give you another factoid. The only pair of receivers to start a Super Bowl multiple times from historically black colleges, they were on opposite sides of each other, Jerry Rice and John Taylor. They did it 3 times.
So what do you guys think right there? Do you think Roger Craig deserves to be in the NFL Hall of Fame? He still isn't to this day. Now, this is over a year later. The Snowman and I had that episode 16 and discussed this topic. Roger Craig is still not in the NFL Hall of Fame. It looks like we have a couple comments to go through. Ike is back and says, Roger Craig was a beast in Tecmo Bowl. Yes, he was. But not as much of a beast as Bo Jackson from what it looks like. Yeah, absolutely. Bo was a mother, father, and beast. And if you say otherwise, then you need to listen to this.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Bo absolutely was a beast in Tecmo Bowl. And it looks like Latina and Callie is here. Latina and Callie, thank you for arriving here. We are alive. We are looking back on history of the In or Out Sports Debate tonight. And, host, I love reruns. Yes, I'm hosting reruns. I'm hosting the history of this show. Earlier tonight, we did episodes 1 through 10. Tonight, we are doing, and right now, we're doing episodes 11 through 20. We just talked about episode 16 with Snowman. We're going to take things into, thank you, Latina and Callie. You know, this is the first real time I've hosted live reruns, and it's been fun. It's been fun. You guys have kept it fun here in the comments tonight. But other than that, we're going to take this into episode 17's highlight as we continue, as we look at the highlights of the first 100 episodes. We got to episode 100 last week. Now we are celebrating those 100 Mother, Father, and episodes by going through and talking about episodes 11 through 20 currently right now. We've gone through the 16th episode. It is time to go to episode 17, where we talk about Shohei Ohtani is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 17 of all sports athletes. Now think about all sports, football, baseball, basketball, of all sports to wear the number 17. Do you think that he is the best? Oh, my apologies. Current athlete to wear 17. I'll fix that in the scroll, but let's go and take a look at it right now. Pretty interesting one, Darrell, and this is for probably what I would call the Babe Ruth of our generation. And Shohei Ohtani is currently the best active athlete to wear the number 17 of all sports athletes. How do you feel about that? Are you in or are you out? Of all the played that wear the number 17 right now, not of all time, but of right now currently.
You know, I'm out. All right, so and, I really had to think about this one a little bit, and the reason why I'm out, and we've talked about this in the past, me and you, Drew. It's something about the Angels, man. It's just like the organization as a whole. There's always just something wrong with that organization. But with Ohtani, my worry down the road for him is that they may overuse him on the pitching front. Obviously him doing that double work, it's going to take a lot out of him. He's a great player, MVP, all that good stuff. But for me, there's two names that come to mind, and they're both in the NFL, and that's Josh Allen and Devontae Adams. I mean, I would put Allen above Adams, but it's just like on a recognition front, people know of Ohtani, but like he's not wide known. Is he probably the best active player? Yeah, in a lot of people's eyes. But I got to go to the person that sticks out and has shown so much in the last couple of years. I'm going with Josh Allen, man. I'm all about the Josh Allen show.
I've got to disagree. I'm all about the long ball. I'm in. Darrell, I love football. Okay, I'm probably a homer for football and fantasy and all sorts of stuff we could talk about. I could talk about more football than baseball all day of the week, but I've got more passion and more love and more play for baseball as we've talked about. And the fact that we've got somebody who's multidimensional here, who can pitch and who can throw. He's not that good against the New York Yankees, but he is still a good he's still a good pitcher. Okay, he's got nearly 22 scoreless innings pitched right now in the past 4 games. I think he threw a no-hitter up into 6 innings in the last game as well, and had a .38 ERA going into that game or whatnot in the 4 games of those stats. So to be able to do that, to be able to hit the long ball, to be able to play in the field and to be able to pitch and do all this stuff in a faster paced game. It's a much different game than when even Babe Ruth played.
Right.
Football, I'm sorry, is pussified compared to what it was 20 years ago. All right. So it is not the same of what it was. So it's not the same of what it was before. So I like Josh Allen. I like your Devontae Adams picks, and I do like your argument there, but I'm not sold. That's why I'm going with in. I'm sticking with Shohei Ohtani on this. I gotta show love for my man who can do both parts of the game.
I love Ohtani, man. I don't want to take anything from him. We almost signed him. Seattle almost signed him, but the Angels won that war. Would love him in Seattle. He would have been a god in Seattle, especially with Ichiro. And it's just, for me, it's just something. I think how bad the team is takes away from how truly great he can be. And my point to that is, look at Mike Trout. We know Mike Trout's a multiple-time MVP, but him is just something about that organization. And I would throw Bryce Harper in there sometimes. We know Bryce Harper is great, but what are the Phillies really doing? Right now, when I'm thinking like the baseball stud, the first person that comes to mind is Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees. They're killing it right now. I love what I see from them. But overall, if you're taking everything else out, Ohtani is the man. I mean, I know I wouldn't be able to do what my man's out there doing right now, but it's just, you got to do it on a high level and carry your team. And unfortunately, that Angels team just
Aaron Judge can't throw 101 mile an hour fastball.
No, he can't.
Ohtani can. Ohtani can. He's like Randy Johnson and Griffey put together.
What? That's saying a lot.
He's different orientation, but I like his swing though. He doesn't have as smooth of a swing as Griffey. But if you could put those two together and like morph them, that's like the closest thing I think we have with Ohtani.
I'll give you that.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
So what do you guys think about that right there? Do you think that Shohei Ohtani is currently the best athlete to ever wear number 17. And we talked about this on 4th of July last year as we now revisit it in the best of episodes 11 through 20. Let's see what these comments have. And it looks like Latina and Callie is here talking about the reruns. We went over that just before we went into this one. And we do have one relevant comment, it looks like, to this. Josh Allen is the best to currently wear 17. Changed my mind. Ike, now look into baseball. Look into what Shohei Ohtani does. He's a pitcher. And he's also a DH/outfielder when he's not pitching. When he's not pitching great games, he's hitting home, mother, father, and runs. Look at the stats. Google them. They will explain it enough for you. Then that will change your mind. What has Josh Allen done except for choke when the matters mean, when the moments mean the most? So look at it. Look at your own stats, Ike, and then we'll come back and revisit this later. If you're asking, I'm okay, even though the mosquitoes were abusing me. Oh, Ike was asking Latina and Callie about how she was doing. And apparently the mosquitoes are getting her. Sorry the mosquitoes are getting you. It definitely sucks when you're outside. The mosquitoes are definitely chomping. But that's just how it is out here in these streets sometimes. Guys, thank you for the comments so far. Going to episode 17. Let's go ahead and carry this on and talk about episode 18 and the Jack Daddy from the wrestling realm, Brian H. Waters. Still got to ask him what that H stands for because it's got to be Hollywood because my man is killing it out here in these streets with his wrestling coverage. Well, we're going to get to that and everything more with Brian H. Waters' first appearance on the In or Out Sports Debate, that being episode 18. And with that episode, we're going to talk about in this one, the best athlete to ever wear the number 18. We go from current number worn to ever worn. Was it Peyton Manning or was it someone else? I discuss it here with Brian H. Waters. We have potentially one of the greatest quarterbacks, and you can't say greatest because of everything that's happened since he's retired with old TB12. But as far as this number, the number 18, and of all sports, Brian H., how do you feel about this? Would Peyton Manning go down as the best to ever wear the number 18 of all sports athletes? How do you feel about that? Are you in or are you out on this one?
Let's see. I'm in. Peyton Manning is just like one of the most intelligent football players I've ever seen. I know that people like to come for him about the big moments and all that stuff, but I always thought Peyton was like one of the greatest to ever do it. Personally, I always think that he's a smarter quarterback than Tom Brady and the smartest quarterback I've ever seen. But I think Tom Brady is just the greatest at winning and, just being in there, maybe not overthinking things too much. But Peyton Manning, overcoming, not always having the greatest defenses, but still being able to put up 13-3, 14-2 seasons, being somebody that you can depend on a game-winning drive. That's the reason. And then just the way he could pick apart defense. Like being a Ravens fan, I was on the other side to watching him and Ray Lewis had those chess matches, and they were always epic.
They were definitely great, and you could even see in other biographies where Ray Lewis's most feared quarterback, most feared player was Peyton Manning because of those chess matches, and that's why I have to agree on this. I'm in on this as well. Hey, look, guys, it's hard to not be in on this. If I had to put a top 10 list and go through all sports, the only other closest one that I could say that would come to it, in my opinion, would be a baseball player by the name of Darryl Strawberry, okay? And he didn't even have nearly anywhere close to accolades that Peyton Manning has. So when it comes to that, and potentially maybe Kyle Busch of NASCAR, with how his career has been, if you want to take it to that, I don't really still, when it comes to sports, I still don't have NASCAR in a football level. So I've got to have Peyton Manning right there as my guy who is the best. There's still a lot of time to tell, maybe with his nephew, Arch Manning, if he decides to take the number 18 and has a better career, who knows? But I think he's trying to forge his own path. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to let Uncle Peyton have number 18 and be the best to ever wear it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
So what do you guys think about that? Do you think Peyton Manning is the best athlete to ever wear the number 18 of all sport athletes? Let me know here in the comments. And now it's after midnight, so I wish I had a different graphic change to show that we are now in August 15th. But hey, we started the show on August 14th. So who mother, father, and cares? We're now here. Let's go ahead and check out the comments we have. Looks like we got one comment. Ike says, I got to give it to Peyton for 18. Thank you for commenting there on the YouTube channel. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn Live, drop in the comments, say what's up, and I'll acknowledge you as we are looking at a live rerun of what started this mother, father, and show, the In or Out Sports Debate, is last week we celebrated 100 mother, father, and episodes. And I'll bring that graphic back up here. 100 episodes of this show. It has been one hell of a run, and it will be back. But before I can bring it back, I want to give you the highlights of what made this show what it was and where we've come from. And you can see how short my hair was to start it out and where it's at right mother, father, now. So as we've gone through episode 18, there's now 2 more left on this mini series that we have for tonight. Let's go ahead and check out episode 19. And with that, we talk about the By the Numbers segment one more again. And with that being said, Tony Gwynn is what our topic of discussion is for tonight for episode 19 on if he was the best to wear 19 or not. Let us know what you think here in the comments. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and see what James Brown and I had to say. It was James' first time here on the In or Out Sports Debate. Let's go ahead and see what we had in store for this one. I say this because when it comes to numbers, when we look at baseball or football or basketball and we think of the greatest athletes of all time, if you were to divide them up into the numbers that they actually play with, and this is why I call this one By the Numbers, Tony Gwynn is the best to ever wear the number 19 of all sports athletes ever. How do you feel about that, James? When you think of all the athletes who have ever worn past, present, we can't go future because we don't have a time machine. But if you think of past and present, Tony Gwynn, is he the best one to ever wear the number 19? Are you in or out?
I'd have to say that again. I think I'm out on this one.
Okay.
Tony Gwynn, when you look at his career, he's got the numbers. He's got he's got the 338 batting average. He's got over 3,000 hits. He's a left-handed, so I feel like I'm betraying a fellow lefty on this take. But throughout the history of sports, there is one guy that comes to mind, and for a lot of newer generation, they may not know, but for those that do, that have followed the game of football, when you think number 19, you think of Johnny Unitas for the Baltimore Colts back in the day. I mean, this was a guy who he was, in a sense, the Peyton Manning of his day, or you could say Peyton Manning was the Johnny Unitas of his day. This was a guy who, at the line of scrimmage, was the best quarterback for his time. I mean, Johnny Unitas, he pretty much the forward pass, that was his bread and butter at a time where football was, 3 yards in a cloud of dust from running the ball all the time. I mean, if you go back and look at some of his numbers, he was posting 3,000-yard seasons back in the 50s and 60s. Like, if memory serves me correct, I think his single highest ever passing yards for a season was 3,481 yards. That came in 1963. And that's comparable to some quarterbacks that play in the NFL today. And he threw that for a season back in 1963 on only about 50% passing completion. If you tie that into nowadays where guys are hitting 60, 70% of their passes, you're talking about he could have had nearly about another 1,000 yards, about a 4,400-yard season. So, I mean, when I think of number 19, man, I'd have to go with Johnny Unitas. He's got the stats, he's got the nostalgia, and he's also got the wins. He's got NFL championships before the Super Bowl, and then he also won a Super Bowl himself. So, I mean, I got to go with Johnny Unitas. Greatest number 19 there was.
You hit it right on the head, and I agree with you on this. I'm out on this as well. And I tell you what, it was tough. Even though it's not, it seems like on paper it's not. It kind of was, because when you say Tony Gwynn, the best ever to wear the number 19, and then you go do your homework and you see Johnny U, like Tony Gwynn was almost as big to the sport of baseball as Johnny U was to football. When you really look into it, the difference is that Johnny U's got a championship, or has championships before Super Bowl as well, but has won the big ones in NFL where Tony Gwynn couldn't as a team, because Johnny U was at the quarterback position, was more able to lead it as a captain. And that's when you talk about like Peyton Manning and stuff like that. Peyton Manning molded his game after Johnny U. Even though he looked up to his father, he looked at other quarterbacks. And another one he even said throughout early on in his career was he looked at Johnny U. That's why he wanted to come to Indianapolis. That's why he wanted to be a Colt and to add on to that legacy for the Colts franchise. So that's why I have to agree with you on the fact that Johnny U is number 19. There's also another quarterback, famous quarterback, 4 Super Bowls that were number 19 for a couple of years for the Chiefs, and that was Joe Montana. So that's why, even though he only wore it for 2 years, he's even above Tony Gwynn, because he had 4 Super Bowls, man, and was a legend for San Francisco. So that's why you got to have Joe Montana, or according to the guy on the water board, Joe Montana, have him at 1, and then Johnny Unitas, those 2 up there, to have him in there above Tony Gwynn. So even though I love Tony Gwynn and I love what he did for baseball and having 3,000 hits, and me being a big guy, being a little bit fluffy myself, it's good to be able to see somebody of big size and big girth be able to play baseball, to be a role model to the younger generation as well, like the Prince Fielders and Cecil Fielders and stuff like that, like the father-son duo. CC Sabathia, you might not see these bigger guys in the game if it wasn't for someone like Tony Gwynn. And Tony Gwynn played outfield, and you have to be athletic to play outfield, and played his entire career in the NL. So I'm saying all this stuff was tough, but what separates him from the others is he didn't get a championship, and I can't give it to him for that.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
All right, you guys, what do you think about that? Do you think Tony Gwynn is the best to ever wear 19, or do you think we were right as far as Johnny Unitas being the best to ever wear 19? Let us know here in the comments, and we will display them while they're live or review them after the show is over when it's syndicated, and see what you guys have to say. We're going to go ahead and take this into the final highlight of the night for this show, and that being for episode 20. And with this one, Wale Kenso joined me for this show, and we talked a little bit of tennis. And I know tennis isn't like a highly favored topic here on like ESPN and stuff like that. But at this time, Serena Williams was returning after a 1-year sabbatical. Let's go ahead and see what we got in store for this one.
Round 4.
And with round 4, we have this topic, Serena Williams. With Serena Williams' return after a 1-year hiatus is huge for the sport of tennis. How do you feel about that, Wale? Are you in?
Oh, I'm in. I like that picture too. I'm in. But yeah, she's always good for tennis, man. We're talking about
put the wrong date on there.
One of the best female tennis player, well, the best female player of all time. And you need that star power. I know they're trying to build young stars, and they have a few, but they have a couple actually. But when you're looking at one of the GOATs of the game in terms of all tennis, to be honest with you, men and female tennis, she's it, man. Like, look at the picture, man. Look at the form. Look at her.
That's fantastic form right there.
Fantastic, man.
There's nobody that can say one bad thing about that form.
It's
ball, hit ball,
form.
Get your motion through there, girl.
Yeah, it is. Follow through. Look at that follow through. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I mean, it's always good. You know what I mean? I mean, it was sad that she got out of Wimbledon early. We would love for her to have a run. But in terms of bringing attention to women's tennis, yeah, it's just always a good thing having Serena Williams in any platform.
I mean, I cannot disagree with that. I'm in on this as well. And, with that said, like, I can't disagree with anything. Not only her, but her sister, Venus, they've both been huge to the sport of tennis. Serena's still like, the bigger of the two, who's still more active. I mean, she is the younger one. She does have a little bit more youth. Both of their careers are winding down as they're approaching, their 40th, in their 4th decade, here on this earth. They're approaching that. So that some time adds up. However, they've stayed in great shape. I can see them both playing pretty competitively into their mid-40s. they can still set some more records throughout tennis. They've already set enough, but it's kind of like Tom Brady still playing in the NFL. Like the more they play, the harder it's going to be for the next one to come and break those records. Because, unless we were talking about Althea Gibson, they've been huge to the African-American culture when it comes to tennis, like absolutely huge, just like Tiger Woods has been to golf.
Yeah.
So when you go back and you compare the two, just like Tiger's been as big as the PGA, the Williams sisters have been huge, and Serena coming back after a 1-year hiatus is huge for tennis.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I think also I wanted to say this: if Serena has the time, to be more active playing tennis, I do think that she'll get, like you mentioned, she'll get another Grand Slam championship. You know what I mean? So I feel like she's definitely able to do it. Just that she's older. There's things in life now. She has kids, or she has one kid, or she has multiple kids. I know she has a kid. She has a kid. So now it's different. Being a parent is totally different. So having time to even being out there and being that super athlete. Because now when you're that old, when she's older as she ages, she's gonna have to, if she wants to continue being an elite tennis player, she's going to have to play a little bit more, condition a little bit better, for that, and definitely more than she's probably had to do in the past, right? Because when as you get older, it gets tougher. So it's just a credit to what she's done in the past, and a testament of her hard will and that desire and that passion to be the best. You know what I mean? So if she still has that passion and she puts in the work, I have all confidence that Serena can do it again. But to your point of her importance to the Black culture and whatnot, she's definitely been it. You know what I mean? Like just watching how her father cultivated that environment with Venus and Serena. And in the beginning, that was Venus's show in the beginning. Serena was just still trying to figure things out. Then eventually, Serena kind of took it to the next level. And so credit to and RIP, credit to Richard Williams for what he did with his daughters and get them to this point. And Serena, she's just great for the game. She really is. She's great for tennis in general, to be honest with you. It's her, Nadal, in terms of men's side, Djokovic, Federer, they've all been great for the tennis game.
And the Joker just won again last weekend.
Yeah, man, he's a beast, man.
Yeah.
He's a beast. I keep telling you, he's to me the best.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Nadal are like the best. I know Federer for a while was, but I think those two have kind of taken over. They have been the best two right now. But like you said, Father Time is undefeated, man. It really is. And I'll give credit to Federer. Father Time was trying to get him. I was trying to get him earlier. It was trying to get him, but he kept fighting him. And but sometimes when them young guns are still coming, they hungry. Like I'm talking about Djokovic, because Nadal at times can still lose to Federer at times. But Federer's win-loss record against Nadal is insane. But Djokovic, though, that's different. He beats both of them. He can beat both. There's a difference. Like Federer and Nadal, depending on the surface, it's whatever. But Djokovic can beat both of them on any given time, which is amazing.
I tell you what, with Serena Williams, the one thing that was cool that came out within the pandemic time is the movie King Richard. Was seeing that and getting to know a little bit more behind the scenes, because not everybody realized that, like you said, it was Venus's show and Serena had to wait her turn. I mean, it seemed like it was so agonizing and painful to watch Venus go out there and Serena's thinking, I'm better than her. And I'm on the sidelines, but she just wasn't old enough yet to participate. So watching how all that unfolded was cool because, with me growing up in the 90s, I didn't realize all that. Of course, I knew Venus and Serena were getting hot during the 90s and we're seeing it on SportsCenter, but you didn't see, the struggle and how everything was at the beginning, and getting them out there and coming from the neighborhood they came from and everything that was the backstory of the Williams family. And just like how Earl was important to Tiger Woods and getting into the PGA, Richard was very important to the Williams sisters. We wouldn't even be talking about Serena today had it not been for King Richard.
It would not be if it wasn't for Richard Williams, when you would not hear about Serena and Venus. And if you just watch them play, I remember watching them play. Venus was off the break was pretty was good. You could see the potential of her being great. Serena was just, you saw power initially just growing. You saw power, like how she struck the ball was amazing. It was just nothing but power. But she would have a lot of unforced errors though. So it was like, oh, she's still really raw, even when she had her appearances at Wimbledon at times. And then, it just took her to hit the one. Once she got the one, it was like, oh, okay, she's here now. So sometimes, that just clicked something. Because at the time, Venus already had her Wimbledon. Venus was already she was it. She was the number one female tennis player in the world. But when Serena got her one, that's when it kind of clicked. And also, Venus had illness, had health issues too, towards like around her prime, which I feel like hindered what she could have been, because we could have had a lot of awesome Venus versus Serena Williams matchups. You know what I mean? That could have been more competitive, but health kind of hit it a different, hit it and hurt that type of possible rivalry. But also at the same time, they hated playing against each other. So I don't know if you got the same passion.
I don't think we'll ever see another women's duo in doubles be as dominant as they were.
Yes.
And the fact that they were sisters, they knew each other, their chemistry was great. The fact that they both became mothers and having the health issue, like you said, is what kind of like, over the last decade, we didn't see much of them.
Yeah.
Serena also dealt with, from looking it up too, she had one child. So just to kind of help you out with earlier what you were saying, she had one, but she dealt with postpartum depression during 2018 and 2019. So all that leading up into the pandemic and then all the stuff we've had over the past couple of years, it's been kind of hard, but luckily they're going through this towards the end of their career, and we had what we had during their prime of their career. We got to witness all the greatness from the two of them. Well, guys, that's episode 20 there. And we talked about Serena Williams and her 1-year hiatus and the return. And we've gone through it all now for episodes 11 through 20. I want to thank you all who tuned in live and with the comments, especially. We've got fantastic form. See ball, hit ball, get your motion in there, girl. Yes, that definitely was a solid take that I had. But he says, all seriousness, she is the GOAT. She definitely is in that conversation for one of the greatest of all time when it comes to female tennis players. But you know what? Thank you all who've been part of this best of episode series, 1 through 12, 1 through 10 earlier this evening, and now 11 through 20 this late in this evening. I'm going to have things a little bit earlier tomorrow, keep it a little bit more fluid. But again, with that, I'll give you a little bit of preview to that. Again, tomorrow, episodes 21 through 30 will be at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, as well as 31 through 40 will be at 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time, just like tonight. 21 through 30 at 8:05 and 31 through 40 at 11:05. Thank you all who've been tuning in for 11 through 20 best of episodes as we covered those best of 11 through 20. As we go now into what could be potentially one decently okay, maybe a badass outro. Everybody stay safe out here in these streets.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.